The Risale-i Nur affirms that anyone who sincerely wishes to look upon the created world as it is, and not as he wishes or imagines to
Okay,
be,
okay.
must inevitably come to the conclusion of La ilaha illallah. For he will see order and harmony, beauty and equilibrium, justice and mercy, lordship, sustenance and munificence.
Munificence.
And munificence, and at the same time he will realize that those attributes are pointing not to the created beings themselves, but to a reality in which all of these attributes exist in perfection and absoluteness. He will see that the created world is thus a book of names, an index which seek to tell about its owner.
So basically, yeah. So he makes a distinction between the looking at the world as letters or as words. So letters are about not about itself. Okay, a letter doesn't give you anything about itself, right? We have 26 letters in English. None of them individually gives any meaning, but once they are combined in a word, that is where. Uh, so the letter signifies something other than itself. A word signifies mostly itself. So the scientist looks at the world as a word, not as a letter. So they basically say they explain themselves. They explain their own existence and reality, which is not like that. The world are in a state of letteredness, letter, that points and is not about itself, but is about a higher reality. And he mentions the idea of names a lot, God's names and attributes, and therefore let us take on a task. So God's names and attributes, as elucidated in Islam, there are 99 names technically. Could you see the screen now? Let me take your attention to God's names in Arabic and in English.
It's all black.
Okay, no, it's good. You're gonna see it now. Okay, could you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, so this idea is not only unique to Badiou Nursi, the idea of names and attributes, okay, Asma wa Sifa, they are also expounded upon by a guy like Ibn Arabi, by a scholar like Ibn Arabi. So both of them, they see the world as mirror. Okay, the world, humanity, they are mirrors. If they are tazkiyed, okay, if they're purified, then the mirror can reflect, not own, can reflect the qualities that we seem to have, the qualities that the universe seem to have. You see, the universe, there's an earthquake, there, a tree is growing from the seed. These all seem, and we can hear power in them, isn't it? But these are just receiving the power. So nature and humanity is in a status of receptivity. We receive God's names and we are mirrors. So the better a mirror we are, the better or more brighter we can actually project and exhibit and emit these attributes. But as I said, we're not owning them. If you are compassionate, it's just God's compassion working on your mirror. You don't own it. If you're, let's say, alim, right? Because there's a hadith that says humanity has been created in the image, in the surah of Allah. This is not only in the Bible, like humans are created in the image of God. This is actually within the hadith, canonical hadith. Okay? So if we are created in the image of God, the best understanding, I guess, we're created with an ability to reflect, not to originate, we're not the originator, but to reflect God's names and hence achieving and receiving the status of the complete human being, Insan al-Kamil, that is discussed in Ibn Arabi's writings. So far, are you following? We are mirrors, we are receiving, we're
Yeah,
not the
yeah.
creator. Okay? And that gives
So
a lot of
basically,
humility. Go ahead.
yeah. So basically, everything that is good comes from God, and everything that's bad, it's not a reflection of God. It's a reflection of our, uh, as
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can call it, bad
Sure.
side.
Okay, so basically the idea of shar or evil, it has been debated classically. There are different understandings of it within the Islamic tradition. One understanding that I kind of adhere to is the idea of shar being adam al-khair. It is the absence. It doesn't have a standalone existence. It's like light and darkness. If the room is full of light, light has a substance. It has a reality. But darkness cannot be measured. Darkness doesn't have a reality. It is just the absence of light, in a sense. Or if we're dark, we have darkness coming out of it. It's just we are turning away from God within the given limited human free will. We're separating, in a sense, okay? And then God's light, we don't let it in, and it is the absence of it. Not it doesn't have an actual reality. So basically, evil uh, doesn't have a standalone reality from one perspective. Okay,
Mm.
so this is also in Christianity as well. The absence of goodness. يعني خوينية ضل presence of it. Absence يشتكي ترى. Okay. Now we have all of these names. I would recommend that we could actually memorize them all. Memorize them not to say them in a lecture, but memorize them when we go out into nature. We see all of these names in an interplay. Okay? So we see a guy who's very wise. We see that God's wisdom is working through it. We're reading Badius al-Nursi. He appears to be very wise. Whatever he has, he doesn't take ownership. Modern life saying, this is what I thought about. This is the production of the intellect of that guy. No, no. Whatever is true, it is not ours. As simple as that. Okay. And that's why we shouldn't fight for it. I mean, imagine you're arguing with an atheist, you shouldn't act as though the truth is yours. It is not yours. Okay. Names. Interesting, isn't it? All right. And it takes practice to see it. It's just not theoretical. Now let's get to the first lesson. Long introduction indeed. Okay.
Yeah,
Did you read the introduction, by the way?
I actually skipped it.
I skipped it. That was very illuminating. I read it once back in the days, but I read from the first word because I used to read it. This one. Okay, so here we are. The first word. Can somebody guess it to me? Can somebody spoil it to me? What does it mean? What does the first word talk about?
In the name of God.
The name of God. Yes, Bismillah. Thank you. All right. Could you, or Ms. Barra or Mr. Muhammad, tell me briefly what have you understood? What have you highlighted from the first word before I get to explain and share my thoughts? Thank you, Ms. Barra. Yes, it talks about this Basmala. Yes. Is there anything
So,
specific you want to say? Go ahead.
um, it points out many things in this great parable, um, but you come to the conclusion that humans are weak and we are so poor and we cannot do anything without God's strength and without God's help. So human weakness become strength through reliance on God. So
Okay.
basically, the first parable, I think, points out that think that message.
So basically, nothing exists, nothing operates without appealing to God, saying in the name of God. Not only
Yeah,
literally, but through the tongue of disposition. Bazmani hal. Everything is witnessing to this
yeah,
reality. Exactly. So this is called complete dependence for everything, for our movement, speech, the falling of a leaf from a tree. Everything is dependent on the laws and the conditions that God has determined.
that is true. And actually, these are small stories or small parables that carries a huge and a great message behind it.
Exactly.
And it's just like the um, his manifestation, his parables is like the manifestation of the name of God, Al-Hakim. And basically,
Oh,
he
you're right.
he has a very huge message behind very short story.
Exactly. I mean that is a huge feat and accomplishment that is very hard, humanly speaking, to get there.
Yeah, yeah.
So exactly. Thank you so much. Let's see what Miss Maria has to say. بالنسبة من بس جاتوانی بخيرنەوەی زیاتر بەکەوتنێکی ڕۆحی هەبوو کاتێک کە دەستم ئایا شتێک بسمیلە مەکە هەستێکی زۆر جیاواز هەبوو دەبێت 9 ساڵ پێش ئێستا مامۆستایەکمان پێی وتم دەستاندا هەشتێک. Yeah, exactly. So it has a spiritual resonance and reverberation for you. It goes very, very deeper and profounder as we go through life and seeing not only us, saying it literally, but when a thing moves, it must go with the permission of God, their behavior. So science, basically, let me say it in one sentence. Science is nothing but an attempt to understand the behavior of nature. It doesn't tell us what nature or what humanity is. It is just the behavior. And when we look at the behavior of everything, do they behave on their own? Are they behaving chaotically? Okay, or are they behaving with determined measures through God? So the data is the same for an atheist, for a believer. Okay, the it's just a behavior of nature. But religion and metaphysics comes and says what nature is, where is it going, what is it for? Okay, so they all complement, but obviously the crown is the religious perspective. Okay, see what I have. بەڵام کە ئەم باشم خوێندەوە ئیشم ئەکە هەستم ئەکرد بە تەواوی هەموو شتێک جایە بەڕاستی نازانم ئێستا چۆن باسی ئەو هەستە بکەم. Yeah, exactly. So, Ms. Maria, I understand we all have inner findings that is very hard to turn them into words, and because language and the bounds of language are really limited, poor thing. And if a thing is very hard to be expressed in words, we have an interesting word in English. Mr. Muhammad, have you ever heard of it? Something that you cannot express it into plain human language.
Inexpressible.
Yes, inexpressible or ineffable
Yeah,
means we cannot really say it in words. Okay.
yeah.
Um, okay. Small seeds and grains carry huge trees on their heads and raise weights as heavy as mountains. Technically speaking, a small seed shouldn't have the ability, okay, if it is determined by chance, to carry things hundreds of times it is size and it is weight. It is something unless it says Bismillah and unless the root is already predetermined. At this point, we're still close to a naturalist. They say yes, it is predetermined by nature. Okay, but they don't explain when it is becoming a tree. Why is it becoming a tree ultimately? Okay, so they may have an idea of nature determining everything. They have taken it away from God and have turned nature into the status of the originator. It creates all sorts of psychological problems as we come into seeing them as Bediüzzaman Said Nursi goes through them, because he obviously understood almost every pillar that modern science is based. Okay. Any other thoughts you might want to share? Anybody?
I just want to say something. Imagine that in Islamic perspective, human beings are the greatest creation of God,
Yes.
even greater than the angels.
Yes.
And imagine that if a seed have this power, saying Bismillah, what could a human do?
Exactly. Ahsan taqweem. Is it not a challenge? God says, wherever you turn, there's the face of God in the Quran. Isn't it a challenge for us? It's like the Quran is nothing
Yes,
but a challenge to humanity, a challenge to go
yeah,
through. But this goes against the natural modern trend of accepting who you are, just expressing how you feel at any moment. The religious teaching is kind of the opposite. It goes in the opposite direction, isn't it? Yes, you have to accept and be content with what you have, but it is never stopping you from going through the veils of excellence and its con.
yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Muhammad, and continue reading.
Sure. You put so much trust in the power of hardness and heat, yet they obey the divine command. That is why each soft fiber of the plant's root, like Moses' staff, obeys, and we said, O Moses, strike the rock with your staff, and penetrate the rock. Every delicate paper thin leaf, like one of the Abraham's limbs, recites, O fire, be coolness and peace, in defiance of the intense heat. All things inwardly say Bismillah and deliver God's bounties to us in His name.
Traditionally, the material world has been seen as a theophany. A theophany is basically a manifestation, okay, of higher realities. Now, when the modern world is looked by a modern observer, it is nothing but resources to be exploited, resources to be taken advantage of. They don't see the inherent, innate status of all things inwardly, with the tongue of disposition, saying Bismillah and deliver God's bounties to us in His name. So it is really mind-boggling. You might have seen leaves coming out of a hard rock, it just creating a hole in it. Have you seen such instances in nature?
No,
Have you not seen it? I lived for 10 years in a village, and because Badi
I
Zaman has
didn't.
lived in natural-based places, you could see that a lot if you live in a nature-bound place.
Sorry,
Yes.
I didn't
Yeah,
get
you
your
didn't get the
question.
question.
What?
You might have seen it, right? So a leaf or a plant could just come
Okay.
and make a hole within a rock. So when it's growing and blooming, it
Yeah,
is
yeah, I've,
creating the barrier of the stone. You might have seen it, of course,
yeah, yeah, many
right?
times.
So when you think about it, naturally, when you touch it like this, it's never gonna break the rock, isn't it? But it's just with
Yeah.
it's like we can see parallels with human connections, especially in marriage, right? If the woman is in their feminine energy, you don't have to really force the stone nature of a man, let's say, forcing it, but by the gentleness that is coming out and conquering the stone. It is not by another masculine energy. It never works. It has never worked, neither in nature nor in humanity. Okay, his name. Continue reading that as well, sir.
The true bestower of all precious bounties and goods we enjoy requires three things: remembrance, thanksgiving, and reflection.
Yes, and the words are, Arabic ones. Hamd, okay, for thanksgiving. Reflection, fikr, tafakkur. Remembrance. Um, basically, yeah, hamd, shukr,
Zikr,
sorry. Hamd, shukr, yeah. Hamd is remembrance. Thanksgiving is shukr, and reflection is tafakkur. And these things are not theoretical. As we go out of the Zoom, we actually remember that nothing could have been the way they are. Nothing there. I can just collapse right now and my vocal cords stop talking. Since it is talking, since it is allowing me to go, means I have to remember this reality. And immediately it has to be transmuted and transformed into an act of thankfulness. And then the reflection is like weaving together remembrance and thanksgiving. If you are not a reflective person, you're not that of a remembering person, isn't it? You wouldn't give that much thankfulness.
that is true.
Okay, let's go. There are two books that I'm gonna introduce as we go through explaining one of the sentences later. Okay, two modern books. Interestingly, they have the same findings. Okay,
We
read
see
that as well.
this in okay. We see this in how all entities in the universe help and cooperate with each other, and in their general interconnectedness and reciprocity. The reference is in the name of God.
The referent, what is referred to, is everything is basically saying I'm referring because of my connectedness and reciprocity that he's the God. I am not an owner of consciousness or will or wisdom. I'm nothing without him in a sense. So we have many instances of interconnectedness within the natural world. We have the food cycle, right? that keeps the population in its place. Okay, we have a very beautiful instance of interconnectedness. Have you ever wondered about the importance of sandstorms? Actually, when we look at these sandstorms happening on these northern Sahara deserts, northern Africa, there are many huge sandstorms formed that apparently they don't serve any purpose. But actually, through a documentary that I've watched, they said that through these sandstorms, the nutrients are being carried from across the desert into the Pacific Ocean, and the life of the plants are dependent on the nutrients that have gotten carried out by the sandstorms, and hence the life of the fish on the population of the oceans. You see, this is mind-boggling to think about it. If that stops, much life in the oceans would stop and cease to exist. Okay, so we
Yeah,
are
it's
under. Go ahead. We are under 1 minute. If you are
it just
interrupted,
needs
we'll
eye.
back in 10 minutes. Go ahead.
Yeah, it just needs eye to see all these interconnectedness.
A spiritual eye.
So yeah,
Spiritual eye. Exactly. We'll be back in 10:32. Would that be good? Let me prepare a cup of tea.
okay, okay, sir.
Okay.